The card vanished between Tommy Woo's fingers. Red paper lanterns swayed overhead, casting shifting shadows across the Chinatown street fair. The smell of incense and fried dumplings hung thick in the October air. Tommy held up his empty hands, turning them slowly for the circle of watchers pressed shoulder to shoulder around him. A child pointed, gasped, and then a hand shot through the crowd. It snatched the deck from Tommy's palm. Cards scattered across the pavement like broken promises. "Do it again, Chinaman," the voice slurred, thick with whiskey. "Say something in that funny voice." Two men pushed into the circle, large, unsteady. One clutched Tommy's silk scarf, dangling it like a captured flag. Tommy bent to gather the cards. His fingers trembled against the concrete. I can continue the show. I can continue to show." The mockery twisted every syllable. Laughter erupted, sharp, cruel. The crowd froze. Imagine standing there, surrounded by dozens of people, yet utterly alone. Tommy's hands shook as he reached for another card. The men loomed closer. Their shadows swallowed the lantern light. No one moved, no one spoke, and somewhere beyond the frozen circle, footsteps approached that would change everything. Bruce Lee emerged from the shifting crowd, Linda beside him. He saw it all, the trembling hands, the scattered cards, the two men leaning over Tommy, feeding off his humiliation like scavengers. The reek of whiskey drifted through the evening air, sharp and sour. Bruce stopped. Linda followed his gaze. She'd seen this before. Different faces, same cruelty. Her fingers brushed his wrist, a question without words. He turned to her. Their eyes met for less than a second, but a lifetime of understanding passed between them. Few could grasp what that single glance contained, trust earned through 100 quiet decisions, the knowledge that some battles must be fought simply because silence is complicity. Linda nodded. Bruce moved forward, shoulders parted before him, not from force but from presence. His footsteps made no sound, yet the crowd sensed him, felt the shift in gravity. He stopped directly between Tommy and the drunks, his body a wall. "Show's over for you too. Move on." His voice cut clean through the noise, calm, level, absolute. The larger man straightened. His eyes narrowed, scanning Bruce from head to toe, and then a smile curled across his face, cruel and slow. Rick Donovan squared up. The sour tang of whiskey rolled off him in waves. He stood a full head taller than Bruce, shoulders thick as bridge pylons. The crowd's murmur died. "Who made you the boss?" Not a question, a challenge. Bruce's voice stayed level, carrying through the stillness. Common decency did. Shane Murphy shifted beside his friend, lips curling. "It's a free country, we can stand here." The paper lanterns swayed overhead, their shadows dancing across Bruce's face. He didn't blink, didn't move. "You can stand here, but you can't harass him." Rick's jaw tightened. The muscles in his forearms flexed. Behind Bruce, Tommy's breathing came quick and shallow. Linda stood at the circle's edge, her hands still at her sides, trusting. The drunk took one step forward, then another. Bruce's feet remained rooted to the pavement, weight centered, knees soft. His hands hung loose. The space between them shrank to arm's length, then less. Rick's shadow swallowed Bruce whole. "You got a real smart mouth," Rick said, voice dropping to gravel. His hand rose slowly, fingers spreading wide. What happened next would depend entirely on what Rick touched. Rick closed the gap between them. His bulk cast a wide shadow across Bruce's frame, blotting out the glow of paper lanterns behind him. The crowd noise dimmed to nothing. Just the rasp of Rick's breathing and the creak of his leather jacket as he squared his shoulders. Bruce's feet remained planted, shoulders level, hands loose at his sides. The smell of whiskey rolled off Rick in waves, sour and thick. He leaned in close enough that spittle flecked the air between them. "You're drunk," Bruce said, voice steady as stone, "and you're embarrassing yourself. Leave before you make it worse." Rick's face twisted. His right hand shot forward, palm open, aiming for Bruce's shoulder to shove him back into the crowd. But Bruce's hand moved first, not a block, an interception. His fingers wrapped Rick's wrist mid-flight, angled it down and across. The momentum Rick had gathered turned against him. his weight pitched forward, feet scrambling to catch up with his torso. He stumbled past Bruce, arms windmilling. Shane lunged forward to catch him, but froze when he saw the expression forming on Rick's reddening face, something darker than drunken bravado settling in his eyes. Shane lunged forward, arms catching Rick's weight before he hit the pavement. The stumble had knocked the swagger clean out. Rick's breath came in sharp gasps, whiskey sour against Shane's face. Bruce's voice cut through the noise of the fair like a blade through silk. "That's your warning. Next time you touch me, you'll touch the ground, no theatrics, no raised voice, just fact." Rick straightened, Shane's grip still tight on his elbow. The big man's face had gone pale beneath the glow of red paper lanterns swaying overhead. His jaw worked, trying to find words that wouldn't sound like surrender. "Whatever, man." The mumble barely carried 3 feet. Shane pulled at Rick's arm. They turned together, bodies angling away from Bruce's unwavering stance. The crowd parted without a word. Faces tracked their retreat, some satisfied, some uncomfortable, all aware they'd witnessed something shift. The 2 men disappeared between food stalls, swallowed by shadows and cigarette smoke. Silence pressed down on the circle where Tommy still stood frozen. No one clapped, no one spoke. The festive music from a nearby stage felt miles away now, thin and hollow. But in that heavy quiet, something else stirred. A question no one dared ask aloud. Tommy exhaled, the sound thin and ragged in the thick silence. His shoulders sagged inward as if someone had cut the strings holding him upright. "Thank you, but you didn't have to do that." Bruce turned to face him fully. The paper lanterns above cast shifting shadows across his features, softening nothing. "Yes, I did," he said. His voice carried no room for negotiation. "Because if I don't stand up for you, who will?" Tommy looked down at the scattered playing cards near his feet. The Queen of Hearts lay face up in the dirt, smudged with a boot print. "I'm used to it." His words came quieter now, almost swallowed by the distant accordion music from another street. "People mock my accent. My English," the admission hung between them like smoke, years of shame compressed into 9 words. Around them, the crowd remained frozen, watching but not moving closer, waiting to see what would happen next. Linda stood 3 feet behind Bruce, her expression unreadable in the dim light. Bruce didn't reply immediately. He simply looked at Tommy, not with pity, but with something sharper. Something that suggested he understood far more than Tommy expected. Bruce's voice softened, though the firmness beneath it never wavered. "Your English is fine. Their humanity is broken. Don't let them make you feel less." The paper lanterns above swayed in the evening breeze, casting shifting red light across Tommy's face. He wiped his palms against his trousers. His eyes lifted, met Bruce's directly for the first time. "How do you stay so calm?" The question hung between them. Bruce paused, and in that silence the distant murmur of the fair seemed to fade. A child laughed somewhere behind the food stalls. The scent of fried dough drifted past, because anger is what they want. Bruce's words came slow, deliberate. "Calm is what they fear. When you don't react emotionally, they lose their power." Tommy's shoulders straightened slightly, as though the words themselves were lifting something off him. Few in the watching crowd could hear the weight in Bruce's voice, but they lined in anyway, sensing something profound passing between the 2 men. Linda stood 3 paces behind, her arms crossed, her gaze steady on her husband. She'd seen him teach before. This wasn't just defense. Tommy glanced at his scattered props on the pavement. His fingers twitched. What the crowd didn't yet know was whether he'd have the courage to use what he'd just learned. Tommy knelt, his fingers closed around scattered cards, tucked a silk scarf back into his pocket. He stood straighter this time, shoulders squared beneath the red glow of paper lanterns. The crowd still watched. He pulled the silk from his pocket, emerald green, smooth as water between his fingertips. His hands no longer trembled. He held the scarf high, let the lantern light catch its shimmer, then folded it once, twice. 3 times into his palm, his fist closed. Silence wrapped around him, but this time it felt different, expectant rather than cruel. Tommy opened his hand, empty. A little girl near the front gasped. He smiled, reached behind her ear, and drew the scarf out in one fluid motion. The fabric whispered against her hair. Her eyes went wide. Bruce's hands came together first, a sharp crack that split the tension. Linda joined him. The sound spread like fire catching dry wood. An elderly woman clapped, a young couple, a man holding steamed buns. The applause built itself into a wave that washed over Tommy's shoulders. He bowed, and when he straightened, something in his chest felt larger than before. But what Tommy would ask Bruce afterward would plant a seed that stretched across decades. The crowd's chatter softened to murmurs as Tommy gathered his props. His fingers still trembled, but from adrenaline now, not fear. He crossed the distance to where Bruce stood beside Linda. "You showed me something tonight." Bruce tilted his head, waiting. One person's courage can change a crowd's behavior. Tommy's voice cracked on the last word. "They were watching me fail until you stood up." Bruce's smile appeared slowly, like dawn breaking. "You had the courage already. You stood there and kept performing. I just reminded everyone else to remember their humanity." Tommy looked down at the silk scarf bunched in his palm. The fabric felt impossibly soft against his calloused skin. "But you made them see me differently." "No," Bruce's tone shifted, firm but gentle. "I made them see themselves. When people watch cruelty without acting, they become complicit. That shame is heavier than any applause." The lanterns above swayed in the evening breeze, casting shifting shadows across Bruce's face. Tommy felt something crystallize inside his chest, sharp and permanent as broken glass reforming into a lens. He would never forget this lesson. But he couldn't yet imagine the hundreds of frightened performers he would one day teach, or the question they would all ask him when their own courage faltered. 3 decades passed before Tommy Wu faced another circle of frightened performers. The community center basement smelled of old wood and fresh coffee. 6 young magicians sat cross-legged on folding chairs, their props clutched like shields. Tommy stood at the front, gray threading through his hair, hands steady as they'd been that night under the paper lanterns. One girl twisted a coin between trembling fingers. "What if they laugh at me?" Tommy's voice carried the weight of years. "They will. And you'll perform anyway." He told them about Bruce Lee, not the movie star, the man who stepped forward when a crowd chose silence, who never raised his fist but redirected a drunk's shove with a touch lighter than breathing, who proved that presence mattered more than size, calm more than anger. The girl stopped fidgeting. Tommy leaned forward. "Bruce didn't fight for me because I was special. He fought because looking away would have made him complicit. That choice. That's available to everyone." The story spread through San Francisco's performance circuits like lantern smoke. Students told students. Few could grasp how simple the lesson was. Standing up never required fists. Just the refusal to turn away when cruelty asked for witnesses. Tommy taught 200 performers before his hands finally stilled. Every one of them remembered.